If every country that wants to have their own nuclear industry and facilities develops their own enrichment capability, there's some 30 countries, Director Amano said this morning, that are interested in nuclear energy that are not doing it now. And if every country who's interested now in nuclear energy decides they're going to have their own enrichment, this is going to be a very difficult world to live in, because you're going to have not one Iran that we're worried about developing nuclear weapons. We're going to have many different Irans. So the fuel bank is a backup to the marketplace. It may not be utilized very often, but the purpose of it is to give countries the ability to enable them and empower them and encourage them to go into nuclear if they want to, if they choose, but not to develop their own nuclear fuel cycle, which would cause huge risk in the world. Well, I think it's terrific, and I think it's going to really help. I think it's going to really reduce risk, so I feel very good about it. We at NTI are thrilled about it. I'm also thrilled that Kazakhstan is the host country, because a country that's given up their nuclear weapons, that has their own huge uranium supply, that knows how to make nuclear weapons if they chose to. They've also gotten rid of their highly enriched uranium, most of it. And so what better home for this under international ownership and overall control of the IAEA, what better home than Kazakhstan? I think, again, as I said to President Nazarbayev in a meeting a few minutes ago, you've stepped up to the plate again. You're setting an example for the world. So we're very grateful for that. I thought Director General Amano gave a very good answer this morning when he was asked the question, how many times do you plan to use it? And his answer was, it's already helping. Whether you use it or not is not the question. It's whether it's being used every day that you have countries that decide that they can rely on the marketplace and this backup to the marketplace and not develop their own enrichment. And he described 30 countries that were in the process of thinking through their possible role in nuclear. So that's enormously important. And President Nazarbayev stepped up to the plate, became a real leader in protecting his own people and making sure there was no more testing here, which had been such a health hazard for Kazakhstan citizens, and in setting an example for the world in getting rid of all nuclear weapons, one of the biggest arsenals in the world. So to come back here and to now be able to participate and witness the signing of the host nation for the fuel bank, to me is a continuation of the story of Kazakhstan leadership under President Nazarbayev.
Each of them wants to be sure before they start on such a program that there is an assured fuel supply, that the low-enriched uranium that is necessary for the operation of nuclear power plants will be available. But some countries, and Iran, of course, is the example that concerns us, have said that in order to be assured that they will have that fuel supply in the future, they need to have their own enrichment capability. Now, the problem, of course, and again Iran illustrates it, is that it is a relatively short step from having enrichment capability to make nuclear fuel to having enrichment capability that can make high-enriched uranium for nuclear weapons. What this fuel bank does is to remove the excuse that some countries might wish to have to say, we need to have our own enrichment capability in order to have a civilian nuclear-powered program. That excuse is gone because this fuel bank and related initiatives by the United States, the United Kingdom, and the Russian Federation means that every country that is peacefully pursuing nuclear power can count on an assured supply of fuel. Kazakhstan, in cooperation with the International Atomic Energy, can play a very important role in giving that assurance to countries around the world. There is concern by some countries that a program administered only by the United States or only by the Russian Federation might be subject to political calculation on the part of those countries. That's certainly not the intent of the United States. But to have an operation in a country such as Kazakhstan with such a strong record on nuclear issues, under the supervision of an international agency that includes virtually every country in the world and has the independence from political factors, that's what would give additional countries assurance that this fuel bank will be there if they ever need it. But the fuel bank is not the first place you go to for nuclear fuel. Rather, the UAE will be contracting with the other suppliers of enriched uranium who already exist for its supply. This fuel bank is specifically in case there is a sudden disruption in that supply, which has never happened, or in case there's some kind of factor that makes the supply with regular commercial contractors unavailable. So this is, in a sense, an emergency reserve.
Had the global community had a fuel bank like this, Iran could have been prevented from pursuing its own enrichment capability for low-enriched uranium for nuclear power plants. But so the next Iran can be prevented. The United Arab Emirates is not pursuing a domestic enrichment program as it acquires a nuclear power capability. So that's the role that this will play. This fuel bank reduces the possibility for countries to develop nuclear weapons. It gives them an international, neutral, reliable supply of low-enriched uranium for power reactors, so they don't have to develop their own enrichment capabilities that could be misused to produce the fuel for nuclear weapons. So it takes that off the table, and as a result, it makes everyone in the world safer.
With the bank in place, the countries that develop their own nuclear power plants will be able to forego the establishment of their own enrichment capacities. And that's significant because enrichment capacities are famous for their dual use, and it's famous for the difficulty to control and to draw a line between just the peaceful use of nuclear material and the military use of nuclear material. Now, the world is facing tough choices in terms of ensuring enough energy for its growth. And it is common knowledge that the nuclear energy will continue to develop. And there is no way around that. And there will be a need to provide security for the international nuclear fuel cycle. And the Low Enriched Uranium Bank that is to be established in Kazakhstan under the IAEA auspices will serve as the guarantee of last resort for countries that would like to develop their power plants, that they will receive uranium fuel for their power plants if there is disruption on the commercial markets. So it is an indirect contribution to nuclear non-proliferation, but it's still nevertheless a contribution. By the way, the LEU Bank is a depository of 90 tons of uranium hexafluoride, which is one full load of a light water reactor producing 1,000 megawatts, which is one of the most popular types of reactors used in the world. And as far as I understand, these 90 tons will be enough to sustain this reactor for 3 years. And such a reactor is enough to power a city of 1 million people for 3 years. Well, the LEU Bank may come into use when a country, say Krakozhia, like in the movie The Terminal, develops its own nuclear power plant, but at some point it cannot buy nuclear materials for its power plants for commercial or political reasons. So it applies to the IAEA, and if this country is in good standing with IAEA, it has signed all the relevant documents controlling the spread of nuclear technologies, then the IAEA can decide that this country is eligible to receive this fuel from the LEU Bank. Kazakhstan was the location for the Soviet nuclear testing program, and a total of 456 nuclear tests were conducted by the Soviet Union, impacting the population which lived and continues to live in the area where the nuclear weapons testing took place, and that also led to the radioactive poisoning of the land in that area. The United Nations estimates that 1.5 million people suffered from the effects of nuclear radiation conducted by the Soviet Union in Kazakhstan over 4 decades. When Kazakhstan became independent in 1991, it inherited the world's 4th largest nuclear arsenal from the former Soviet Union, which included more than 100 intercontinental ballistic missiles, SS-18 Satan in NATO classification, each capable of carrying 10 nuclear warheads of 1 megaton TNT each. It does sound crazy, but that's the kind of killing machines that both the Soviet Union and the United States, for that matter, were able to develop over the nuclear age. Given the history of nuclear weapons testing in Kazakhstan, the president of Kazakhstan took the decision to renounce nuclear weapons, to shut down the Semipalatinsk nuclear test site, and to campaign for a nuclear weapons-free world.